All right. Well, good afternoon. Um, Welcome, everyone. My name is Daniel Pasco Aguilar. I am founding director of the Center for Social Justice and Chief Diversity Officer at Excelsior University. We are thrilled to have you with us today. Excelsior University's leadership, the Center for Social Justice, and the Military and Veterans and Civic Engagement rope teams welcome you to Excelsior's celebration of this year's Veterans Day. For those of you who are not acquainted with Excelsior's rope teams, we have developed 20 communities we call rope teams, which we describe as representation and support villages around our students based on what matters to them. Half of them are focused on dimensions of identity important to them, such as the military and veterans rope team, and half of them focus on industries of interest to our students. So if you want to learn more, go to communities.excelsior.edu, or you can contact the Center for Social Justice for more information. We have a very special guest with us today, retired Lieutenant Colonel Kent A.D. Clark, class of 2010. Thank you so much for being with us this afternoon, Kent. We are honored to have you. Before we introduce you formally, though, I have the pleasure of introducing Dr. David Scable, president of Excelsior University, who has kindly offered to say a few words about Veterans Day. David.
Thank you, Daniel, and welcome, Kent. Excuse me. Today, we pause to honor the unwavering dedication, selfless service, and unparalleled sacrifices of our nation's heroes. Veterans Day commemorates the bravery and resilience of military personnel, past and present, who've defended our freedom, protected our values, and inspired our communities. 40% of current Excelsior students are active duty military or veterans. And as a university with a long history of proudly serving those who serve our nation, we recognize the profound impact of Veterans Day on our community. According to the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, over 1.6 million veterans have transitioned to civilian life since 9/11. And we're committed to supporting these remarkable members of our community in their academic and professional pursuits. As we reflect on the importance of Veterans Day, we honor the 19.5 million veterans living in the United States. We also honor the 1.3 million active duty personnel serving worldwide to protect this nation. And we honor the countless families and loved ones who support our troops. The 2024 Veterans Day theme is honoring their legacy, empowering their future. This year's theme underscores the importance of supporting veterans' transitions to civilian life, recognizing their sacrifices, and promoting their well-being. As we commemorate the bravery and resilience of our active and veteran military personnel, we reaffirm our commitment to empowering their future through education, employment, and community support. By honoring their service, we pave the way for a brighter tomorrow for our military, veterans, and their families. Veterans Day is more than a holiday. It's a celebration of courage, sacrifice, and patriotism. It acknowledges the challenges faced by our military and veteran community, including higher rates of unemployment, homelessness, and mental health challenges. Our university remains dedicated to addressing these issues through the transformative power of post-secondary education. Education is key to empowering veteran success, and our university is proud to offer dedicated support services for military and veteran students, flexible online programs accommodating unique needs, resources for transition, career development, and mental health. Thank you for joining us today, and let's honor our military and veteran sacrifices, celebrate their contributions, and continue to support their journey. Daniel, back to you.
Thank you, David. And before we pass the microphone to Kent, I want to thank a number of people and units that made today's event possible, starting with Maria Nyland from marketing, Erin, Jason, and Connor from communications, Jamie, Mackenzie, and Ellen from development, of course, our President David, Jill and Lori from the President's Office, and Pam from the Center for Social Justice. Thank you for your amazing partnership and support. Before we get started, I also want to say we'll have a question and answer space for you that you see at the bottom of your screen. Please think of comments and questions you would like to make to Kent at the end of his presentation. And now I have the privilege of introducing Kent A.D. Clark, Lieutenant Colonel, retired United States Army. Kent is the founder of the Clark Advisory Group, LLC, and CAG Federal. The group's primary focus is business optimization, services and consulting, information, technology, and logistics. He is a global operational executive with expertise in leading complex businesses in strategy, finance, and logistics. Kent also serves as the chairman and CEO of CAG Federal, which is a service-disabled, veteran-owned small business. Kent previously served as a chief executive officer and executive director of the AMVETS National Service Foundation, one of the largest and oldest veteran service organizations in the United States. He also served with the legislative and executive branches of the United States government, including advising the chairman emeritus of the House Appropriations Committee for all appropriations subcommittees encompassing an over $1.8 trillion annual budget. Kent has a keen understanding of all 12 of the appropriations subcommittees and has a vast and extensive defense portfolio scope that spans the Joint Services, National Guard, and Reserve components both on Capitol Hill and in the Pentagon. He is consulted regularly for advice from state governors, adjutant generals, senior political appointees, and flag officers within the military service components, as well as private sector business leaders on the development of successful legislative and government business development strategies resulting in increased revenue. Kent is a member of our Excelsior University Board of Trustees, and he's also an alum with a Bachelor of Arts degree from Excelsior, which he earned in 2010. In addition, Kent has a postgraduate certificate in legislative studies and a master's degree in public policy management, both from Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. His numerous military decorations include the Legion of Merit, a Bronze Star Medal with 2 oak leaf clusters, a Purple Heart Medal, a Special Forces Stab, a Combat Action Badge, and numerous other Joint Campaign and Army Service Awards. Kent and his wife, Nicole, along with their 2 children, currently reside in Tampa, Florida. Kent, we are honored to have you with us today. Thank you for your service, and the floor is yours.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the gracious introduction today, Daniel, and thank you, President Scable, for your comments as well, and for having me here today to talk to the men and women of Excelsior University and those joining us online. I would like to say good afternoon to all of our veterans, our students, fellow alumni, faculty, family, friends, and honored guests that are able to join us today. It is a distinct honor for me to serve as your speaker as we recognize and pay tribute to all of our military veterans for their unwavering service, sacrifice to country, and commitment to our nation. Whether defending our nation in wars or conflict, helping with humanitarian assistance, or helping everyday Americans at home during disaster relief, for over 248 years, veterans have answered the call to defend and serve their nation. They are everyday citizens who have chosen to selflessly serve their country. The reason for serving are actually very diverse, and they're very individual. You may not get the same answer if you asked a group of veterans why they wanted to serve. It may have been due to a higher calling that they had felt. It could be a desire to be part of something bigger than themselves. Some join with hopes to pay for college and to make a better life for themselves and their family. Others feel a sense of duty to their fellow Americans. Whatever the reason, these Americans represent the very best of what our nation has to offer. Citizens who believe in America and what America stands for. We are so thankful to have them every day. As we reflect today on the essence of loyalty as a service member and a veteran, I believe that we must first take a look at our country's founding documents. First of all, service members must pledge their loyalty to the country and what it stands for. And the United States is blessed to have the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, which strongly lay out the framework for freedom. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. These ever-inspiring words, written by Thomas Jefferson in the Declaration of Independence in 1776, are still as relevant today as they were the day they were written. Whatever the initial reason, excuse me, whatever the initial reason for serving, veterans all make a commitment upon joining the military to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. Unlike other countries, the commitment is not to a certain person or to a party. They take an oath to support and defend an ideal, a belief that freedom is an undeniable right for all. A belief in fundamental rights and freedom so profound that the document specifically details these through the Bill of Rights. It is this unwavering ideal that allows all service members to take this pledge freely and to serve with true faith and allegiance. Yet the loyalty of military service members go even further and deeper than this. There is a loyalty to their units, their leadership, and to each other that drives them to keep performing and to never let each other down. A good leader earns the loyalty and respect of their people. In combat, loyalty can win or lose a battle. Many service members who have performed heroic acts in combat say they did it because they did not want to let their buddies down. It is a feeling of duty, honor, and respect that drives service members to face their fears and to face danger. A friend and fellow member of the board for Excelsior University, the chairman emeritus, whom we just recently lost in August of this year, Lieutenant General Arthur J. Gregg, once said this about his fellow service members: "The thing that I value most, though, is the long-term relationships that you develop, and many of those relationships continue today. I feel that I've had a good career and a good life. I'm a happy soldier." That is a quote that lives on forever. We can see that even after a long and successful career, Lieutenant General Gregg valued most the loyalty and friendship of his fellow service members. Many of you may already know the name Audie Murphy. You've seen his movies, you've seen him portrayed in the cinema. But if you don't know of him personally, he is recognized as being the most decorated American soldier of World War II. He earned a total of 33 medals, including the Distinguished Service Cross, 2 Silver Stars, 3 Purple Hearts, and the Medal of Honor. He enlisted in the Army at the age of 16 years old, and he was given a battlefield commission. In January of 1945, he was only 19 years old. 19 years old, he received the Medal of Honor for single-handedly holding off a company of German soldiers for over an hour while wounded, and then leading a successful counterattack in the Colmar region of France. When asked about the essence of loyalty, he said this: "Loyalty to your comrades, when you come right down to it, has more to do with bravery in battle than even patriotism does. You may want to be brave, but your spirit can desert you when things get really tough. Only you find you can't let your comrades down, and in a pinch, they can't let you down either. This unique fellowship is something that many cannot understand unless they have served. A reassuring, unspoken pact among comrades that keep each other going. Even in the gravest of danger, this is the truest sense of loyalty." We also want to talk a little bit about service today, as we alluded to earlier. Service is another hallmark of our veterans' legacy. It is the act of giving oneself to a greater cause than oneself. Military service demands sacrifice. From the places you are stationed, to the clothing you wear, to the rules that you must adhere to, and all of these are decided for you. Also, our military families share in this sacrifice. They often face separations from their loved ones, and they have to go it alone. All the while, they are navigating everyday life. It is a sacrifice that we must never forget. Many of you listening today, as I have, visited a place called Bangor, Maine. We visited this location as we transitioned back from the Middle East. I wanted to share with you a heartwarming story that I came across of a National Guard soldier in his journey home. This soldier was in the National Guard unit. They had been deployed for a very long time in Iraq. As many of you, you came to the end of your first tour and then were told that you had to extend involuntarily. And this soldier was finally coming home. They had many delays and disruptions and made their journey far longer than ever expected. This young man and his comrades, they finally landed at Bangor, Maine. Just think of this. They've been traveling for 36 hours from Iraq. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. Like everyone on the aircraft, this soldier was tired, he was hungry, and he was very frustrated. But he said, as I walked off the plane, I was taken aback. In the small, dimly lit airport, a group of elderly veterans were there waiting for us. They lined up one by one to shake our hands. Some were standing. Others were confined to wheelchairs. But they all wore their service hats to welcome us home. Their feeble hands stiffened to give us a salute. Their left hand handed us coffee, cell phones, and snacks. It was a great welcome home. As I made my way through the line, each man and woman thanked me for my service. The tears were hard to choke back then, as they are today. We later learned that this was a group from the veterans of foreign wars. They had waited for more than a day to welcome our flight home. They were there upon our arrival. In this story, we see the very best of our American veterans. Veterans showing up for one another. Veterans of one generation honoring the service of a younger generation and thanking them for their service. This unwavering love for their country and their belief in the values of the United States and to those who serve, this is a special and irreplaceable bond. When I first began speaking, I mentioned that veterans chose to serve their country for different reasons. But I do want to tell you one more story about Audie Murphy. I felt it was important to share this because this is a story that should be important to all Americans and is ultimately why we as veterans serve. This excerpt is from Audie Murphy firsthand. In 1948, I returned to France at the invitation of the French government. It was a still war-ravaged country, but this time, there was something different. It wasn't the absence of fighting, nor the silence of the big guns, nor the disappearance of uniforms or chow halls. I didn't know what it was until one morning when I was taken to the grounds of a small French school. The children had been assembled in a schoolyard. They were grouped close together, and there they were, arranged in little wobbly rows, their heads bobbing around like flower buds on long stems. One of the teachers rapped for silence. The kids quietly and immediately turned and focused their eyes on her. Their faces were scrubbed and bright in the sunshine. The teacher raised her arms, and for a moment, there was no sound. Then the teacher brought her arms down, and the kids began to sing. I knew why I felt at home. The spirit of freedom. It was hovering over that play yard as it did all over France at that time. A country was free again. A people had recovered their independence, and their children were grateful. They were singing in French, but the melody was freedom. And any American could understand that. American at that moment never meant more to me. The true meaning of America, you ask? It's in a Texas rodeo, in a policeman's badge, in the sound of laughing children, in a political rally, in a newspaper. In all these things and many more, you'll find America. In all these things, you'll find freedom. And freedom is what America means to the world and to me. I wanted to share this story because I really felt that Audie Murphy let us know the true meaning of freedom and how precious and wonderful it is. It's a fleeting word. It is a fleeting feeling. It can vanish in just a moment. It is valuable and must be protected at all costs. Throughout the years, Americans have answered the call to service. We follow in a great tradition handed down by those who have gone before us. Whether during World Wars I and II, the Korean War, Vietnam, or more recent conflicts such as 9/11, Iraq, or Afghanistan. Americans have continuously fought to defend freedom around the world, but it hasn't come without a price. This day is dedicated to all those who answered this call to service. Whether they are listening to this speech today or they have made the ultimate sacrifice, veterans whose wounds, both visible and invisible, are testaments to their service. We must never forget the price our veterans have paid to keep us safe and defend our freedoms. Today, we honor our veterans for their loyalty and service. We express sincere gratitude for their sacrifices and their contributions to our nation. We also remember those who have made the ultimate sacrifice to our nation, and we honor their memory as well. What veterans have given our country is beyond our power to fully repay. Yet, today we recognize our debt to their honor. So I ask all of you listening, if you see a veteran today or in the coming days, thank them for their service. Acknowledge their willingness to serve. It is a profound act of selfless service they have endured to undertake on our behalf. In every generation, Americans have needed these veterans. And in every generation, Americans have stepped forward, humbly accepting the call. As we depart here today, I salute each of you for your service and what you've given to America. May each of us carry a renewed flame of commitment to support our veterans, whether it's volunteering at a local VA hospital, a local, state, or national nonprofit, hiring veterans in our businesses, or simply taking the time to listen to their stories. There are countless ways we can show our appreciation as a nation. Let's make every day Veterans Day by living up to the ideals for which they served. Let's build a nation worthy of their sacrifice, one that embraces unity, cherishes freedom, and stands for justice for all. Let us see the loyalty, service, and sacrifice of those who have served. Let us strive to be worthy of their legacy and to continue the work of building a better nation for each and every one. To all who attended today's Remembrance of Veterans Day, I thank you for taking the time to learn more about this day and those who have served. To our veterans, thank you once again for your service, your sacrifice, and your unwavering commitment to our nation. May God bless each of you, your families, and may God continue to bless the United States of America. Thank you very much. And at this time, I'll turn it back over to you, Daniel, for comments.
And thank you so much for your powerful and inspiring words and for helping us focus on the concepts of loyalty and service and freedom. Thank you so much for sharing the stories, powerful stories that you shared with us. So thank you for your words. Let's open the space for comments and questions. Let me talk a little bit about logistics in that regard. We have the question and answer space where you can post your question. You can also in that space say, I'd like to be elevated, and then we would do so to bring you to the panel to ask your question visibly and verbally. You don't have to. You can also do that, of course, in the question and answer session. And Kent, we already have a question.
Okay.
So let me share that with you. How do you see the results of the election informing how our military service members and veterans approach their important role in our society within our nation? What can we learn about military service that we should all live by, even those who have not served in this capacity?
Well, thank you very much. And that's a good question because a lot of people, they ask that and they believe that the military is focused on a party. But as I stated earlier, when a person joins the military, they swear an oath to the Constitution of the United States of America to support and defend that document, that ideal, the people that wrote it. And when you go and you actually get to see that document in Washington, D.C., and you read the Bill of Rights and you get to understand and educate yourself about what the founding fathers really meant by those documents, they are as relevant today as they were the day they were penned. So first thing is I want you to know that despite who wins an election, the soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and coasties and guardians now within our armed forces, they are there to protect and defend each and every citizen of the United States of America. First. So that to me is immeasurable. There is no other country in the world where that occurs.
Thank you, Kent, and thank you for the question. Pam, I believe you have a question. Would you like to?
Well, I just thank you so much for your service and thank you for your powerful words. You made me tear up with the stories that you told today. They were very much full of just faith, loyalty, allegiance, all those things woven into that wonderful speech you said today. But I would like to just also highlight some of the comments in the chat. Hand salute, well done. Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Clark, for your service and all of our veterans here at Excelsior around the U.S. and abroad. Thank you for your service and insights, Ken. Support, defend, and protect. My question is, how can civilians support veterans on Monday and every day, as you said before?
Okay. Well, one of the things I would like to reference back to is President Scable. He gave you some numbers and statistics whenever we first started the webinar. But one that I want you to think about, there's approximately 320 million people in the United States of America. He gave you his numbers that supported our conflicts and wars. That small number that he articulated are the ones that carried that burden for each and every citizen. So, what would I say to that? What's important? It's very important to be a great citizen. Exercise the rights in which they give you. Do your jury duty. Vote. Be a good member of society. Do something good for other people. It is these small things that you do in your life that makes America great. It makes it a great place to live. Treat each other as you want to be treated. And if we do that, man, it's immeasurable what we can all achieve together. But it's important to a person that is serving, deployed, and laying their life on the line to know that there is a country worth defending and that there's a family behind them that supports them. You can't ask for more than that.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you,
Thank
Kent.
you.
We have a comment from our provost, Chris Caser. Thank you, Kent. Such a privilege to hear you speak and remind and clarify the sacrifice, service, and commitment to the Constitution. Your service to Excelsior as a trustee is a gift to the university and our students. Wanted to mention that. And we also have a question.
Thank you very much.
Oh, we have another comment. Thanks, Kent. Nice comment about personal commitment. The question that I have here in the space by John Anderson is, what did you take away most from your own military service?
Well, whenever I first joined the military, I will go back to a quote from John F. Kennedy. And he said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." And that's what I went into service with that in mind. Whenever I say, what did I take away? I had opportunities that they given me that I could never do on my own. The nation gave me opportunities. I served as an enlisted member in the military, a non-commissioned officer, an officer. I got to do things and see people in places that I would have never gotten to see from my rural perch where I grew up. Also, the people, the education, the diversity, it made me who I am today. So there is not a price that I could put on what did they actually give me, but they made me a better citizen at the end of the day. And then what you do with that, do you put that towards the public good? If you do, you're helping people every day of your life. And that is a joy. You should do something that you enjoy every day. And you hope that is what you take away as a veteran or as a productive member of society. One of the other key points I'd like to mention is today is not just about the veteran. It's also about their family. But it's also about those that know the veterans.
Mm.
Everyone in society is important. It's as important to be the deployer as it is to be the supporter, as it is to be the cheerleader, or to be the civic citizen, or the government worker, or the political appointee, or the political senator, congressman, governor, president. Everybody has their niche in society. Be proud of who you are and what you contribute to America on a daily basis. Be a great citizen.
Wonderful. Your words are as selfless as your service. Thank you so much. I have another question.
Sure.
What do you see as our challenges going forward as we go through different generations in our country? It's actually a question from the audience.
Well, one of the key components here, and I'm going to address what Michael had to say there in the chat box, is our local veteran service organizations. I think it's important that you support those organizations, whether you're a young veteran, midlife, or a senior. I think it's important to go over and talk to folks who you can relate with, who you can spend time with, and that your family can also associate with. Because for everyone, there's going to come a time in your life when if you did not talk to those folks and you didn't socialize, you're going to miss part of that. And when you get too old, when you can't leave your house anymore and you can't go visit people, you still want people to remember what you did. Remember the sacrifices of you and your unit and those that we discussed today, right? That sacrifice, that loyalty, you want to develop this within your teams. And those teams is your local community. And that's where these local veteran service organizations are. Veterans of Foreign Wars, the AMVETS Post, and not everyone, and also the American Legion and the disabled veterans, not everyone who serves in the military goes to combat. But everyone who served in the military took an oath to support and defend the Constitution. So at any time, they could call you and say, hey, it's time to go. And you raised your hand. You said, okay, when's the plane coming? So it's just as important, no matter what period of time you served, you were ready to go. And so everyone's service is important.
Thank you, Kent. We have another question in the space. Can you speak on the importance of higher education for military and veteran students, and what Excelsior and other institutions can do to best serve those who are currently serving or transitioning from active duty to civilian careers?
Okay. Let me take the latter part first, because Excelsior, it has went through many iterations. You know, they were a long time ago for some veterans, Regents College, and then they became Excelsior College and now Excelsior University. But they have always been focused on the military community. And they were always for adult learners, learn where you are. And they made that possible. whether that's going down to your education center and talking with an education counselor and learn what are all the aspects that you can do to get a college education. Can you take CLEP tests? Can you take courses at your local community college? And then this is where Excelsior comes in. You have a home-based college or university where you can take all of your credits. You can take what they call ACE credit, which is all of your jobs and experiences that you had or schools in the military, and transfer them to college credit. And you can bring all that to Excelsior University, and a great education specialist will sit down with you and help you devise a career plan. And that is what's important. You know, one, you have to have a plan. Two, you have somebody that helps you implement your plan. And then three, you execute the plan you devised to get to your in-state goal. And then the first part, can you repeat the first part of the question for me?
Yes, Pam, is there a way to bring it back? Oh, here we go.
Yeah, they're unanswered.
Um,
Can you
all right,
speak on
so
the
it was,
importance?
can you speak on the importance of higher education for military and veteran students and what
Okay.
Excelsior and other institutions can do?
Okay. Why is higher education important? And I had this discussion earlier today. Higher education broadens your breadth and scope of your life. It gives you aspects to look at and understand others. You can understand challenges. You can understand communities. You can understand whole other groups that you would never get to talk to by education. Also, you get to understand different aspects of society when you're studying at a university. You get social science, English, math. Depending what you are studying, you may get anatomy, physiology, you may get engineering. All of these different aspects that you have makes you the person you want to be. But without it, that higher education doesn't make as much sense. Because as you're going through the process, it's all weaved together to make you the person you're going to be, with the piece of paper in your hand that says, I am a graduate. I made it. And for a lot of people, you're first generation graduate. For some, you're the first generation to graduate your high school, the first one to go to junior college, the first one to get a diploma. That's important. That is not a milestone that should not be. You should celebrate every moment of that, but you can't get there without higher education. Everything is a stepping stone to make you a better person. So I would hope that no matter what you do, one step at a time, always do something to learn something new every day, and then apply it toward a goal, a piece of paper, a diploma, a certification, a skill. Just like when I go down to the VA hospital, I see all the nurses and I ask them, hey, where did you go to college? And I run across people that went to Excelsior. Oh, I went to Excelsior College. I went to Excelsior University. And you know what's so important about that? They've got on their badge, RN, registered nurse. And you know that that is quality care because they have earned a certification. They worked hard. That's what higher education does for you.
Thank you, Kent. You're muted, Pam.
Thank you. Thank you. We have a few more comments. Michael says it challenges your intellect and broadens your horizon, higher education. And then Andrew says, great discussion and presentation, sir. Thank you for your service and sacrifice to our great nation. Happy Veterans Day to you and all of our fellow vets. The focus on the commitment to the military, connected students by Excelsior is what attracted me to this university and what drew me to enroll. I think it's important we recognize that Veterans Day can also be a hard time for service members who are struggling with mental health. And it's important we reach out to our fellow vets and check in on them. Your call or text could be the contact that pulls the veteran away from the edge.
And that is a very true statement. And we had talked earlier about rope teams. That was mentioned earlier as we started our conversation. And when you look at those groups, and they're small groups, and they're devised for a certain reason, that you build these groups where you have continuity and you get along with people and they care about you, and you call and you check on each other and you help educate each other. Everyone has challenges in life. As you move through your challenges, who stands beside of you? That's what you want your rope team to be there for. You want, and I tell people, you can count all your friends, one hand. And your friends are those who are going to be there when times are really bleak and bad, and you call them at 2 a.m, you say, hey, I got a flat tire and I need you to come. And they're 5 hours away. They're going to say, okay, I'll be there. And they get in the car and they drive to you. And then you have your rope teams and the people down at the VSO and other groups, and they're there to support you in your local area when times aren't so far away. And you can call them and talk to somebody. Now, I'll give you the pre-warning. If you sometimes try to call the VA, you're not going to get a real person. Okay. So it's better if you have a person locally that you can talk to. That does help tremendously, unless it is a dire emergency. Then, please use your 911 and your VA hotline crisis lines. But I would say that, that's where your VSOs and your local veterans organization, they are so helpful. You have a place to go. And there's people like you, and they understand you, and they speak the same vocabulary. And you can relate to people. Not saying that, you can't go and talk to other people too, but, a lot of these folks, they've lived the same path in which you've walked. And so please do not throw that asset away. Just kind of remember about that.
Kent, I have a question for you.
Okay.
You have clearly gifted Excelsior University with your support, engagement, leadership as a member of the board. I heard you speak in very powerful and engaging terms about your experience at Excelsior. Could you talk a little bit about what Excelsior means to you? What drives you to remain invested in Excelsior? Talk about the value of an Excelsior University experience.
Well, I'll go back to an earlier time in my career when I had lots of college, but I didn't know what that really meant for me. And I met this gentleman, and it was General Gregg.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to him, and he says, well, what are you trying to do? I said, well, I'm trying to get a college degree, because I had served in the military. Like I said, I was an enlisted member. I was a non-commissioned officer, but I wanted to become an officer. So in order to be an officer and achieve the rank of captain or above, you had to have a bachelor's degree at that time, because I went to officer candidate school. So General Gregg says, all right, well, let me see what I can do. And he said, send me all of the stuff that you have. So I sent him all my transcripts and everything. And he sat down with me. And this is a general. He's going to sit down with you and talk to you. And he was a member of the board. And I was like, well, this is pretty good. You know, somebody cares about me. All right, I'm going to listen to this. So we went through, you know, how many Englishes do you have? How many social science? How many humanities, this and that. And we came to find out that I didn't need a whole lot of classes, but I needed direction to accomplish the classes that I needed. I was a Green Beret in the Army, and I was deployed a lot. So sitting in a standard classroom, probably not going to happen. So I had to figure out an alternate path. So we went down the CLEP test route. And so people would say, well, how did you pass a CLEP test? Well, you go down to the Ed Center and you took a test, and it was a diagnostic. And they said, well, if you have this much of a score, your chances of passing is pretty good. And then they give you a little booklet. And the booklet says, well, this is the person that, you know, that we used to write the test from. They gave you the books that they wrote. So I would go and get the books. And then when I deployed, I'd take the books with me. And then I'd read the books at my leisure. And whenever I came home, schedule my test, take my test. And every time Excelsior was there for me. Every time I called the counselor, they were there. Every time I went to the Ed Center, at that time, they had a counselor from Excelsior there. So I could talk to them anytime I wanted. But that one-on-one support was always so crucial to me. Now, later, after I had my bachelor's degree, and I became an officer and I had achieved the rank of major, I had an opportunity to do a fellowship. And my fellowship was with the Joint Chiefs of Staff at the Pentagon. And they said, and I got accepted, and I was very happy, and I was on my way to the Pentagon, and I got this call, and I'm in Iraq, and phone conversation was bad, and they said, hey, you've been accepted to the program, congratulations. And they said, but we have added a new part to the program, and you must attend Georgetown University. But in order to do that, you must be accepted. And I'm thinking to myself, I have my degree from Regents College. I don't know if I'm good enough to be accepted to Georgetown University. Needless to say, I went through the process. One step at a time, just like I said, one foot in front of the other. And we went through the whole process, and I got down to the Dean of Public Policy at Georgetown University. And we were doing an interview on the telephone, and I was in Iraq. And we were attacked during that time. And the phone line got shot in two. And there was no way for me to call back to the university. And I'm deployed and I'm there, and you spent all this time and effort, and there's no way to get reconnected. And you just hope and pray that somebody was hoping and watching out after you. And a few days later, my commander came down and he says, I just wanted to tell you that you were accepted. The dean accepted you. What did Excelsior do for me? They got me accepted to Georgetown University because they opened the door for me. You never know what door will open as you progress through this thing called life. One step at a time, do your best. It will pay great dividends.
Thank you, Kent. So we're running out of time. So we'll close the question and answer session, but I know that David wants to say a few words to close our time together.
Well, thank you. And Ken, thank you so much for being with us today and for your continued service to this country and frankly to Excelsior. You're one of our model trustees, of course. You're a veteran, you're an alumnus, and you strongly support the university. So on behalf of the entire team, thank you.
Well, thank you very much for having me here today. It's been a pleasure. And to all the folks who dialed in, was on the webinar, asked the questions, thank you very much. Because with this dialogue, we all get better through education, ever upward.
Thank you, Kent, and thank you for your service to the nation. Thank you for your service to Excelsior. It's been an honor to have you today. Thank you, everyone, for all service members and veterans out there. Thank you for your service, and have a wonderful rest of your day, everyone.
All right, thank you. Have a great day.
you.
Enjoy your Veterans Day.